Hey, what's good, everyone? It's Kyle Henderson along with Andrew Bone. Bone, what's up, man? How you been?
I'm good, Kyle. How are you, brother?
Man, doing great. Having a great 2022. Arch Manning recently took social media by storm. Once again, Nick Saban, Bill O'Brien, Pete Golding, recently at a basketball game. Full court press. Bone, what's realistic here? Let's just dive right into it. I don't want to make people wait around. What's realistic in the sense? Let's talk timelines. I mean, you see the future cast is 100% Bama, but come on, it's only January 23rd. Let's be realistic here. Give us the latest.
Yeah, I don't know who put in this future cast this early in his recruitment. I'm not ready to make a prediction on Arts just yet. I mean, this is a guy that we've seen over the course of the last 6 to 8 months a different a different rumored school as the favorite. I mean, one month is Texas, the next month is Georgia. You hear about Alabama. I mean, you have to just be kind of patient with this one and let it kind of play out because Arch isn't coming out naming a school as his leader, and I think that there's a lot of different things that can happen at different schools that can change things, I think with Alabama, the biggest thing there is, Nick Saban, the structure of the program, the championships, the opportunity to compete, the quarterbacks that have come through, especially over the course of the last a few years, the guys that have gone into the NFL and having success there, and Heisman Trophy winner at the quarterback position, this past season. I mean, those are some things that really stick out, and clearly it doesn't matter who the offense coordinator is at Alabama. I think some schools it's going to change a little bit, who they bring as an OC. But as with Alabama, we kind of see Nick Saban's touch on the offense in terms of it doesn't change much with whoever they bring in as an offensive coordinator. I mean, it's still pretty high flying. The receivers are going to get the football. Quarterbacks going to make big plays, and offensive stars are going to have opportunities to win Heisman trophies, be All Americans, and at the end of the day, compete for national championships. So I think with Arch Manning, the biggest thing is letting him see that, and I think he understands that. Alabama's gone and seen him twice. Nick Saban, Bill O'Brien, Pete Golding went and saw him on Friday, went to his basketball game. You don't see Coach Saban go to many basketball games. It is very rare. He doesn't go out to, you don't see him out at high school football games on Friday nights. You see a lot of different high school or excuse me, head coaches for college programs go to games on Friday nights. Nick Saban doesn't do that. I think the very last person that he went and saw play on a Friday night was Jameis Winston,
Wow.
and Jameis went to Florida State. So,
Yeah.
Coach Saban said, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore. You
Mhm.
kind of show it kind of shows favoritism a little bit when you go out because you can only see a certain number of guys during the football season. You might can go out and see five different players, and Coach Saban really doesn't want that to be the case with at least with Alabama. I mean, I know it's different with other schools, but with Alabama, you want to make sure that you're targeting everybody and showing them the same amount of interest is at least your key targets. You might have you know 15 guys that you're recruiting down that home stretch that you can't go see all 15 of those guys. You can go see a few of them. So he just doesn't go out and do that. But now you're kind of in this time period where you're going out and you're seeing a lot of different juniors in terms of going out and visiting their high schools, meeting with the coaches. Sometimes you get lucky and you can go watch a basketball game. That doesn't happen too often, but Nick Saban was able to go out, see Arch Manning play, and he's been to a lot of different high schools as we've seen over the course of the last week
Yeah.
for juniors. I mean, just a ton of different juniors have seen Coach Saban come to their high school. So it's not like Arch Manning was the only kid, even though that's the one that went viral. He's gone out and seen a lot of other prospects, but Arch is the one that everybody wants to talk about and everybody sees on social media in terms of Coach Saban being at his basketball game. Coach Saban's not going to waste his time. If he feels like, and if the staff feels like they have a realistic chance with somebody, they're going to spend a lot of time recruiting them.
Yeah.
Pete Golding last Friday, 2 Fridays ago, went and saw Arch. Met with his high school coach, and then the next Friday, Golding, Coach Saban, Bill O'Brien goes and sees Arch again. That's twice in a week that they went out and saw Arch Manning. They wouldn't do that with somebody that they didn't feel like they had a an okay shot at landing. So this is certainly a guy that they feel like they are strongly in the mix for, and I feel like they are as well. And people say, "Oh, well, Manning's not going to go to Alabama." You know, I think that times are a little bit different now in Tuscaloosa, and they want to play. I think kids want to play for championship programs, and I think that's what Arch is looking for. And obviously, the schools that are on his list are championship caliber programs: Alabama, Georgia, Clemson. Um, Texas is trying to get there, but Texas is high on his list, and obviously, he knows Sark's had success, in the past, especially at Alabama. So, I think those are all things that that speak to him, and he's going to take it pretty slow. I mean, he's in the middle of basketball season. All these coaches that are coming through are seeing him play basketball right now, so he's really kind of focused on that. In the spring, he's going to start going to some spring games, and then during the summer, probably take official visits during the summer. So I would imagine in June it's going to be pretty busy for him, and then once we kind of get into August, we might see him get ready to make that college decision. And I think Alabama is certainly a top contender for him. And I always see people say, "Well, Alabama signed Ty Simpson; they're not going to get Arch Manning." Well, you go look at these other schools and who they signed over the last couple of years. All these other schools have signed elite quarterbacks as well. I mean, you look at Texas bringing in Quinn Ewers,
Mhm.
who was the former number one quarterback in the country. Plus, they signed a quarterback in this past recruiting class. Look over at Georgia, freshman five-star Brock Vandegrift. Plus, they signed a top 35 overall player in this class at the quarterback position, Gunnar Stockton. Then you look over at Clemson, five-star quarterback Cade Klubnik. So all these schools are signing, and have elite young quarterbacks. So it's not just Alabama who has some elite quarterbacks at the position. And then you look at Alabama a little bit more. Bryce Young's coming back, so Bryce is going to be the starter at the position. Who's going to be the starter when Bryce leaves? That competition is going to be wide open. It's not given to Jalen Milroe. It's not given to Ty Simpson. They're going to give it to the best player who earns the starting position. And that's what you sell to Arch right now. You bring him in, he competes with Ty Simpson, he competes with Jalen Milroe for that future starting position. Maybe he wins it, maybe not, but at least the opportunity is certainly going to be there for him to compete for that future quarterback position after Bryce Young leaves. And you know, Bryce Young ends up leaving. He's won a Heisman Trophy. So the last quarterback at Alabama is a Heisman Trophy winner. So
Mhm.
that's something that probably resonates with Arch, and something that he probably is a one of his biggest goals here in the future is winning a Heisman Trophy. I'm sure it's not the number one goal. I know the number one goal is probably winning a national championship and getting picked early in the NFL draft. But certainly winning a Heisman Trophy speaks volumes to him as well. And Alabama's one has had four Heisman winners over the course of the last 12 years. So I certainly think that Alabama is a strong contender. They're going to be a strong contender in his recruitment all the way until the end. So I certainly wouldn't write off Alabama at all with Arch Manning. And I think with Coach Saban going to his basketball game, something that is out of the ordinary for him at least, I think that should say a lot about how Alabama feels about its chance with Arch. It may not be, hey, we're definitely getting him, but they at least feel like they're strongly in the mix for him.
Here with Andrew Bone talking Alabama Crimson Tide football recruiting. There was a lot to clearly dive into with Art, so I appreciate it, Bone. I know there's a lot of people that were really excited to
Right.
see kind of the full court press. So when we talked on our pre-show, that's exactly what I feel everybody kind of wanted to know is what's realistic and timeline. So really good stuff. Also, some other news in Tuscaloosa. You had Jermaine Burton recently entered the transfer portal, one of the top wide receivers from Georgia, entered the transfer portal, and shortly after taking an unofficial visit to Tuscaloosa. I thought it was really interesting. The first person that subtweeted Jermaine Burton was Trayshawn Holden. He was like, "Yo, hit me up real quick." Clearly, he's excited about potentially having Burton, a member of this team. Again, what's realistic here? Who are the favorites? Let's talk about Jermaine Burton. In a sense, to potentially be a big transfer to Alabama. It might be early. We might be close to some sort of a timeline. Why don't you talk about Jermaine Burton and what's realistic?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen Alabama have a lot of success in the transfer portal, including this year with Jameer Gibbs and Elias Ricks, and Jermaine Burton, certainly a top guy for Alabama. Every time a player enters the portal, we always get asked, "Hey, is Alabama interested?" And just because they may have been recruited in high school or they may have been a 5-star coming out, doesn't always mean that Alabama is going to go after that guy. It's got to kind of be the right fit. It's got to be a guy that they want to be able to bring in, contribute right away, and has that sort of is an Alabama caliber type player. And they've evaluated them. They've did their due diligence, try to find out everything they can about these kids. So you bring in Jermaine Burton for an unofficial visit this weekend. I think Alabama feels like it has a very good chance with Jermaine Burton, and I do. I mean, I feel like that's the case. I mean, I think it's Alabama, LSU, Texas A&M. I think he wants to stay in the SEC. Um, you look at the success at the wide receiver position at Alabama over the course of the last several years, including one who transferred in this past season in Jamison Williams, who's now projected to be a first round draft pick, coming from Ohio State. So I think that's obviously a goal for Jermaine Burton is to one day get drafted in the first round, and what better place to go to than the University of Alabama. So I certainly think that Alabama is pushing for him, and I feel like yeah, I would be surprised if he ended up going somewhere else. I think with Alabama making a big push, bringing him in for a visit this weekend certainly says that they really want him. They'd love to add him, and I think it's going to be hard for if a receiver is being heavily pushed by Alabama, especially one in the transfer portal, and one that feels like they can come in and contribute right away at Alabama, and they see the success. Not only at the wide receiver position, but success of players transitioning over from the transfer portal
Yeah.
to Tuscaloosa. I think that helps a lot as well. So as of right now, if I were to make a prediction, I would I would lean towards Jermaine Burton joining Alabama's team at some point.
Yeah, I mean, they said Nick Saban warned everybody about the transfer portal. And you see with Jamar Gibbs, Elias Ricks, and then potentially with Jermaine Burton. And I think kind of to build off what you just recently said, I mean, you look at the wide receivers that have recently come through Alabama, and of course, you have several years ago, you have Julio Jones, Amari Cooper, even Calvin Ridley seems a little bit older now, as the past couple years have had incredible continued success. Jerry Judy, Henry Ruggs, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, and this past year, as you said, Jameson Williams, what they've been able to do. John Mechie, also going in the draft, although I'll have to check where Mechie's scheduled for this draft. Wanted to point out a couple things from Pro Football Focus regarding Jermaine Burton. It was interesting to look at, this is from Pro Football Focus. You can see his targets kind of there in the middle. Wasn't targeted that many times, in my opinion, in terms of the overall talent. And I know that Brock Bowers and Georgia's offense is much different than Alabama's, but I think in terms of if you want to come to a place where you're definitely going to get targets, and you saw what Bryce Young was able to do in terms of targeting John Mechie, Jameson Williams, Slade Bolden, some of his other wide receivers, as kind of we went through the course of the season, those receivers got targeted and targeted plenty. So I think when you look at the sheet, I mean, he was only targeted even 4 times against Alabama, 4 times against Missouri, 4 times against Vanderbilt. Probably not enough if you're a wide receiver with the capabilities of Jermaine Burton. Bone, I also wanted to dive into Danny Lewis. He's here in Tuscaloosa for an official visit, part of the class of 2022. What's the latest on another prospect out of Louisiana? We mentioned recently that the state of Louisiana has been good to Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. What's the latest on the 6'3", 235 pound tight end?
Well, the latest with him is that we need to get his height and weight updated because he measured 6'4", 260 pounds during his official visit to Alabama this weekend. I mean, this is a guy that one of those kids that received a lot of offers late in the process, and we see that every year. We see somebody blow up late. Alabama tends to offer players late in the process, but this is a kid that Alabama probably would not have offered, if they didn't lose Jaleel Skinner. Now, obviously, um, I think with Jaleel Billingsley leaving and transferring to Texas, I don't think that had much of an impact in terms of Alabama deciding, okay, let's go after another tight end. I think it had to do more with Jaleel Skinner leaving, because I do think that before Jaleel Billingsley announced that he was transferring, I think Alabama probably expected that for a while, and that's why they were bringing in Amari Kneeblack
Yeah.
and Elijah Brown and Jaleel Skinner. So once they lost Jaleel Skinner, they knew that they needed to look around and see who else was available in the high school ranks, and then kind of look and see, hey, maybe there's somebody in the transfer portal that we can bring in. So they started looking around after after signing after that early signing period. Saw Danny Lewis, evaluated him. They went and saw him, I believe, on Tuesday night of this week. He's playing basketball, so very athletic kid.
Mhm.
They really liked what they saw. Decided to go ahead and extend him an offer, and this is a committable offer. It wasn't an offer. Hey, here's an offer. Now come visit Tuscaloosa and let us get to know you a little bit better. Then we'll decide if we're gonna press for you. This was a committable offer when they offered him on Tuesday. They've been heavily recruiting him ever since. Now, he is going to take a visit to Florida this upcoming weekend, may end up going to LSU. Florida's going to be interesting because he does have a prior relationship with Billy Napier, who recruited him when he was in Louisiana. So we'll kind of see how that plays out. But I definitely think that Alabama is strongly in the mix for Danny Lewis at this time, and I think he's going to wait until signing day to announce that decision. But Alabama certainly, certainly a top contender for him. Could easily end up getting him. His family was with him during his official visit this weekend, and from everything we've heard, things went extremely well. We hope to have an interview with him a little bit later today on Bama Insider.
Last thing, Bone, as we kind of wrap it up, you just mentioned earlier that Nick Saban, he's been visiting a lot of members from the class of 2023. There's been new offers going out. If you can kind of just give us kind of an overview from this really big recruiting weekend, kind of a lot of guys to keep track of. Of course, you can go to Bama Insider, and Bone has a nice clean list for you in terms of the nuggets, who to know, what to track. But quickly, just kind of a consensus about this big recruiting weekend in Tuscaloosa as we close it up.
Yeah, Alabama had some great players in Tuscaloosa this weekend. Mostly underclassmen. Now we saw Jermaine Burton and Danny Lewis make their trip to Alabama, but most of the guys that were in town were 2023, some 2024 guys, and even a 2025 running back, Anthony Rogers out of Pike Road, who received an offer from Alabama on Saturday. But I think most of the offers that were extended, we saw 5 or 6 guys tweet about getting offered by Alabama. A lot of these offers are still kind of contingent on, hey, we still want to see you during the spring, need to come to camp, need to work out. But one offer in particular that I wanted to mention is Hunter Osborne, defensive end out of Hewitt Trussell. We've talked about Hunter before on the show. This is a big kid, 6'3", about 260 pounds. Very active defensive lineman for Hewitt Trussell, who's had a great junior season. He picked up his 45th offer from Alabama on Saturday, and that's a lot of offers. And he's been waiting on this one from Alabama for a long time. We had an opportunity to talk to him. Really excited about it. Said that he was just kind of living in the moment when Nick Saban offered him when he was sitting in Coach Saban's office with his family. Just really exciting. He's not ready to make a decision anytime soon. He's going to wait it out, going to take a lot of visits and enjoy the process. But Alabama certainly made a move for Hunter Osborne this weekend. Some other top guys who were on campus included Peter Woods, defensive end from Thompson High School. You also had Tamarian Parker out of Central Phoenix City. You had James Smith, Quay Russo from Carver High School in Montgomery, Kelby Collins from Gardendale High School. Just a great overall group of kids that were in town. And this was kind of considered a smaller weekend. This wasn't a big junior day event or anything like that. This was just, hey, we can get some kids on campus this weekend. That'd be great. And it was some really top end guys that were in Tuscaloosa, and they're going to have they're going to have their actual first junior day next Saturday. So a lot of guys coming into town. It's going to be a big weekend for the Crimson Tide. So we'll have the complete list of prospects coming in for junior day on BamaInsider.com.
Good stuff, Bone. Really appreciate you kind of wrapping things up recruiting wise. Hey, fam, we really appreciate you being a part of a Bama Insider. Close to 72,000 subscribers right here on our YouTube channel. Of course, go support Bama Insider. Check out, the Talk of Champions. We have everything listed there in terms of recruiting, what you need to know as Alabama continues to move forward to the 2022 season. I'm Kyle Henderson. He's Andrew Bone, both a Bama Insider. Hit the like, thumbs up. We really appreciate you hitting the subscribe button. We'll catch you next time on BamaInsider.com.